Just as a bit of context, and I would ask particularly Roger and Penny, remember 5 years ago, we were sitting right here with a giant whiteboard and we were murder boarding what we're going to cut in the city. I mean, we were trying to make a budget work that wasn't going to work. And it was hard, and we did some things that were difficult, you know, like we killed Senator Drive, among other things. But there were salaries cut, there were positions cut, there were a lot of quality of life things that were cut, and what a difference we have today. I am very pleased with the budget, and you know, my hope is that as a council you'll also be pleased with the budget. Obviously we've listened to you over the course of the year. There's a lot of your fingerprints all over this, things that you've told us were important. You know, I know Councilmember Coffey has made comment about how can we vote on a budget by the end of November. We've never done that before, and I would argue, one, we don't have to. If you feel the need to extend it, we can always do that. That's your prerogative. But again, for the same reason we're not sitting here with a whiteboard dissecting the city's budget, I think the city continues to be in a stronger and stronger position. And the reason we think we're going to be able to move through that way is we're not asking you to make as many really tough decisions, more choices and more answering the things that you've told us. And right from the beginning, I think this is something that reflects the will of the council. And so without any further ado, I would ask, I've changed Paula's title to budget director until such time as we approve a budget. Then she gets to be the finance director again. But until that time, she's the budget lady.
So before she gets started, I just want to brief you a little bit on the format. So Ms. Barry and I talked, and I think if you guys don't mind, the best way to do this is let's address the questions from the last budget meeting first, and then we'll get into tonight's topic. So that's why you have two presentations. And if you guys want something online, want more information, just let us know. We'll get that to you.
All right, and just so you know, too, in this follow-up to the meeting that we had last week, you don't have all the answers in your packet. I have asked some people to just speak on the topic for me instead of trying to write everything down. I ultimately wrote down the things that I thought really warranted a visual aid or thought might be easier with the visual aid. So if you can bear with me on that. So one of the questions, several of the questions really revolved around personnel, and you guys were looking for some more information. And one of the questions was regarding the 11th firefighter, and what is that 11th firefighter really going to do for us? And is this firefighter really going to be able to help to make a difference in our overtime that we're currently paying? Now, right now, we have 189 days of vacation that can be used throughout the year in which we have to have coverage for those days where people are taking vacations. We currently have one rover. That rover is able to cover 96 of those days. With a second rover, we'll be able to cover the majority of the remaining time without running into overtime issues. However, because of FLSA laws, there will be certain times where the coverage will just result in overtime, but that should be very few and far between. The second rover will also be able to step in to fill more long-term needs of the department should there be a need for long-term leave, whether that be an illness, an injury. And by being able to take that rover and actually put them in a position to cover for a person, we're right there reducing our reliance on overtime.
So I'll take over the explanation of this. Councilman Gorski asked for some data on overtime, and the red line is a theoretical, I repeat, theoretical straight line math of overtime. So the assumptions are you've got a 3-person response, you have Kelly days. Our firefighters work 2,800, well, if they pulled all their shifts, they would work 2,880 hours per year, which is too many under federal law. So they have what's called Kelly days, mandatory time off. So there's 13 days of that. Also, as Barry mentioned, FLSA, there's only a certain number of times they could work in a 28-day period. So what it works out to is every 2 shifts, 2 full shifts, every 4th day working, they have to take 4 hours off, so you gotta backfill that. Vacation, mid-range firefighter, 5 to 9 years, gets 124 hours per year. Talking to the chief, the older firefighters take a lot more than that, the younger firefighters take a lot less, as you might expect. So good average is about 100 hours of leave, vacation time per year. And then sick time, we just chalked up 3 days worth over the course of the year for 72 hours. So when you factor in all those requirements, you can see theoretically that at just about at the 11th firefighter is when those lines cross, and the overtime and the cost of the firefighters is pretty much the same. So I superimposed on that our actual fire overtime back to 2011. And I didn't do it before 2011 because it was 2-person response and all kinds of other stuff, and it was not apples to apples. So this is all 3-person response, and you can see why now the red line is theoretical, because those are actual. And in 2011, we had the SAFER grant, and we had 12 firefighters for a 3-person shift. So you would think, hey, following your model there, Danik, you should be having 0 overtime. Well, it doesn't work that way. There's illnesses, there's injuries, there's deaths, there's weddings, there's births. So that's why the actual varies off of the theoretical. So then in 2013, we went from 12 to 9 firefighters. We lost the ability to maintain the 3 grant firefighters. And then in 2014, we added the 10th firefighter. 2015 still had 10. I mismarked that, sorry. 2016 is the last number. We still have 10. So other things that are going on in here that bear out mentioning, which makes our overtime actual diverge even further. Earlier on in 2013, and especially in 2014, we had a different shift structure, and we switched this year to a 2-day on, 4-day off structure. And is that called a modified Detroit?
No, the old one was a modified.
The old one was modified Detroit.
I don't know if this one copies.
And so out of deference to Councilman Gorski, we moved away from that. It's the no, it's 2 days on and 4 days off. So that actually, we looked at studies nationwide, and when departments shifted to a 2 on and 4 off, they expected about 20–25% reduction in overtime. Unfortunately, so 2014 we didn't have that shift structure. You saw we had 199,000. We also, after 2014, completely saw the need to address overtime. So we had the shift. When we had a shortage in firefighters, we had the chief running calls in 2016. And so we thought with the 2016 chief response and the 2016 new shift structure that our overtime would be a lot lower. But you can see with those 2 big additions, we still had 3 firefighters go out on long-term. 1 was bereavement, 1 was, or 2 were babies. So we're still running 154. So I didn't want you to think that, when we hire the 11th firefighter, we're going to go down to 0. We won't. But we're doing further thing in negotiations to try to reduce that. What you mostly get with the 11th firefighter, yes, on paper you will save about $40,000 because the new firefighter is about 110, and if you only have 10 firefighters, your overtime cost is $150. But again, let me be clear, I don't expect a 0 overtime. But this is what you get. The chief really should not be running calls. And we've run out of overtime this year, so from now until December, we're on a 2-person response. If the chief's not available, it has to go 2 people out. That is a very low response. We used to do that in 2014 and 2013, but it's not good. So the 11th firefighter will get us a reduction in overtime. I would say probably 20–30%. But what we would get is much better service. Trained firefighter EMT out there instead of the chief who's trying to juggle 55 things and showing up late and everything else. And then finally, I would just add that the negotiations we're working on, we took your inputs, and we've already been back to the union and been met with some favor. So I expect we're going to get some help there too. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question. What do you expect the overtime to be at in 2016 with the 11th firefighter? If you were-
And, yeah, so 2017, I think we budgeted 80,000.
So when you look at the chart, I mean, you averaged out probably $15,000 to $20,000 a year per firefighter in overtime. What are their thoughts on losing that income? Because that's a good amount of income that they're used to receiving. It'll be taken away by this 11th firefighter, which is a great thing for the community, but do they have the same thoughts?
I'm going to answer, but I'm going to let the chief to come on up here and help me as I start. I'm sure they missed the money. I think we all would. But we've also been given big feedback that they're all getting tired, they're all getting burnt out. And there's a Bureau of Labor study from 2011 across all industries that shows when you reach a certain point in overtime for people, that's what happens and productivity was down. So I'll have Chief address that more fully.
Yeah, and that's one thing when you're relying on 6 individuals to fill an overtime, that does go down. So sometimes it's difficult. Some people are working a lot more than others because they have the ability to do that. I know last year in 2014, we started even talking about the idea of having an 11th firefighter, and the budget didn't work out to add it last year. So they brought this forward, and I think they all are in support of it because it's going to free up their time off to be with their families and take care of things at home and hobbies that they have. The stress alone of working a lot of extra hours. We really don't want a lot of people working that many extra hours. It leads to higher stress rates. You tend to bring that home with you, and the family life suffers. And we want them to be healthy employees at work, and when they go home that they're who they are at home. They go home, they're the father, the husband, the wife, the dad. That's what we want them to be when they go home.
I have heard that there's some pushback by some individuals.
Mm-hmm.
So would you say that there's 100% agreement or 80% because
On the
Yeah.
that's out there?
On adding the firefighter.
As far as cutting back on that overtime, evidently.
So I'll start this, and Chief can answer the other part of this. But the first part is, we deal with the union, and we properly deal with the union. So the union has never come to me anyway and said that they have members who would not want to add 11 firefighter. That's all I know. So let Chief finish up his part.
Yeah, and I would echo that statement. I've not heard any pushback with adding 11 firefighter. And on the issue of me responding to calls, we get a little tired of that. That has impacted me more than I thought it would this year. So I appreciate not being in a position to have to do that.
Well, as long as you have the agreement with the union, and they have no say so.
Yeah. So their leadership is in support. I can clearly say that.
Okay. It's at a much lower level.
Yeah, and I can echo that. My discussion with the union leadership, both for this and potential for an ALS proposal is, one of the things they have, they're professionals. And they want to do a good job. They want to be well trained. They want to deliver a good product. And they also want opportunities for professional advancement. So a more robust department with better capabilities provides that.
All right, so public safety is looking to get some administrative support that's going to work 50% for police, 50% for fire. By providing that position, that person's going to do your typical admin support type role. In addition, they're going to be able to provide daily consistent receptionists for both police and fire. It will allow their offices to be open to the public for an additional hour at least. And in addition, this person would be an administrative support person for the community resource officer, the fire marshal, They would be able to help with the police ongoing accreditation requirements, as well as help with the monthly transport billing for fire. Okay, there were a couple questions too with regards to the executive assistant and the conversion of the seasonal. So I'm going to go ahead and let Mr. Danik and Ms. Kearney answer that for you.
So I'll handle the executive assistant part, and then Ms. Kearney can talk about the HR part because she's a lot smarter on that than I am. So this past year, the executive assistant has been handling mayor, city administrator, council, and then also doing part-time back support due to our vacancies in clerk and HR. Okay, so that was back in before August when you guys converted that over. So going forward, what we would like is 50% time for executive assistant duty. That's mayor, council, city administrator, and then 50% for HR. So you had asked about, what part of the mission is getting affected, what suffers. Well, last year, the executive assistant took on special projects that I specifically would probably have to do around here due to manning. The phone conversion. She spent, at least 40 to 60 hours on that over the course of the year. So she's aiding me in special projects mostly. She aids the mayor and scheduling, but she aids the mayor in writing correspondence, finding addresses, doing the schedule, typical executive assistants there. And then for you, the council, a number of you have asked her to do a couple odds and ends, but her main duty for council has been scheduling trips, doing conferences, registrations, things like that. So what are we going to lose next year with this conversion? We're certainly going to lose the special projects ability. So when we get to later in the presentation, we'll talk about one-time money for one-time projects. There's some things on there that aren't specifically one department or the other. I'm going to have to find somebody to do it myself. So that's a mission degradation right there. The other part too is you look at the time in the day. I will most likely lose some or all of her taking on my scheduling ability. These are things I can absorb. This is a result of us looking to do things a little bit smarter. When we couldn't fill the HR position after 3 attempts, 2 advertisement periods, it just became obvious that construct wouldn't work. So we'll use this as the carryover instead of the model we talked about last year. And when we get a little stronger next year, the year after, whatever, we'll come back and try to plus that up and get things back to normal. So if you would explain that HR stuff.
Just a little additional background into our executive assistant. She was interested in increasing her financial position, as anybody would, any employee. And Tacoma was advertising. And she was seriously considering it. In fact, since we've looked at going to this position, she's been called 4 times by Tacoma to come in. And quite honestly, as somebody who's in here now every single day, I see what she does for us and the wealth of knowledge and experience she has within the organization. And one of my concerns was, okay, we've lost people who have been, headhunted and recruited to bigger cities. Is there a way we can look at her position and answer some other needs and put her in a position that it is at least competitive for her to stay with us? And she wanted to stay with us. She prefers to stay here. And so this also helped us retain some of our really quality employees that we have in the city.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I would like to echo what Mayor said. This is a good investment in a current employee. She has extensive historical knowledge here at the city, using the city systems, so she's bringing a lot to the table. In addition, she's helping with a lot of the HR functions that are difficult to cover with one person. For example, when we have a project going on or a meeting or a vacation, HR is closed. So this will allow us to cover some of that downtime. Her position for the 50% HR duties will take on some specific duties that will be hers to manage, so she can coordinate her workload from the mayor and council and then prioritize the duties that she has for the HR functions. Specifically, she'll be working on benefits administration, entering people into the system, She does staff events like our open enrollment fair and our health screenings. She will also do a lot of admin, HR admin work, so correspondence to candidates, assisting with recruitments, and kind of just moving our HR department to the next level.
Does that answer the question? Okay, thank you.
Okay, good evening. So this summer, I had actually 4 temp grounds maintenance positions, a total of 4. I've hired 5 of them at I think for a very short time frame, like 2 weeks, I actually had 3 on board. But for the duration of essentially the spring to summer time frame, there's essentially effectively only 2 people on board with the comings and goings of people into that position. So the intention for this is having 1 full-time position in there. I'm looking to supplement that. Excuse me. I'm looking to supplement that with a agency temp at 6 months. I have that in the budget under Greenways for essentially the tune of $23,000 under professional services. So that's how I'm going to essentially effectively get the second person between April and October during the peak grass cutting time frame, specifically in the parks, and then leaf pickup there in October. So what we experienced this fall, besides my own frustration, just trying to hire people and keep them on board at any one point, while I did have 3 people on board, for the most part, between April and October, I only had 2 people on board and were able to make do with that. My intention with the 12-month employee is have some ownership with it, so we can actually do things in a forecasting piece as opposed to the I'm sorry.
Drinking the wrong stuff.
I'm sorry. So having the 12-month employee will be the long-term enduring person. I'm not going to go out and hire someone for the temp person. I'm going to probably stick with the agency. I've had this person on board for 2 weeks, and it's wonderful to be able to just go back to the agency and say, hey, this person's not working out, I need another one. It's just too many false starts with trying to hire our own temp agency. So I do have under professional service the ability to cover that under Greenways for a 6-month time frame between April and October.
Does that answer the question? Okay? Yeah, no more questions to Gus, man. He's good for 2 topics.
During the last meeting, you guys did ask about real estate excise tax, and I sent out an email to everybody, but I do want you to know I'm going to really talk more about it and share that email with the charting out years worth of real estate excise tax collections during my next presentation. So I'm not going to address it at the moment. Did I follow up on all the questions that you guys had from that last meeting? All right.
Okay, on to the...
We're very agreeable in that.
Well, I mean, you ask questions, and that's, you know, we want to come back and make sure we clear those up before we get over.
So we have a lot to cover tonight through this packet. And so I'm not going to really go through the agenda. We're going to talk about all the other funds, the reserves, some public work funds, and then public safety. motel tax, we actually had a couple meetings on that earlier this summer, so I'm not gonna spend too much time, too much time chatting about it, but I did at least want to go over some of the highlights. In 2017, we're gonna be looking to have our rooms nearly double. But going into the 2017 budget, I really took a conservative stance when I put those numbers together and only went 30% over the 2016 budget, which truly is only 27% over the estimated actual for next year.
Why did you decide to do that?
I want to see how the new businesses go. The other thing too, the LTAC committee will meet twice to review applications. So if revenue is coming in better than expected, then at that time I can bring forth some revised revenue projections and we can look at issuing grants at that point.
Looking at your chart, you're estimating 2016 is going to come in lower than 2015?
I'm a pretty conservative estimator. You probably even saw that if you looked at the real estate excise tax. I had it in the book at 604,000, but really through November we're looking at 647,000. So I'm a little conservative on the revenue side.
Okay, yeah, well, I understand that, but to the general public, when they see the lines go down, take a dip, then it's like, oh, you know, we don't have as much money, you know.
Yes.
It's a psychological thing.
Okay.
When you see it, you know. So I'll be really excited to see what the end of the year.
Yeah, Ted and I deal with this every day because Gus overestimates the cost of everything and Paula underestimates the revenue. But if we still balance at the end of it, that's good. We'll never be disappointed.
If nothing else, I really am trying to make sure that we're being safeguarded. It's so much better to estimate that you're going to have less revenue, so you're not projecting out to spend more than you're really going to get in. But
We had a finance director that overestimated a few times, right? That's pretty hard.
yeah.
Go ahead, Andy.
So in light of that, I mean, hypothetically, I've only lived through this picture. Okay, so what is prior to 2002 then? I mean, what is Reed expected to do? Because there were some decisions made in the city that said that Reed would just keep going into the sky. So what happens? I mean, what can we anticipate? Is this going to level off?
I think you will find a stasis point at some point. So what happened this year is we've got about $500,000 of REIT money, apart from the sale of Clock Tower, which itself brought in like another $150,000. So if you take out the big purchases, and you go back to the years, and you take out when State Farm was sold last year, and take out this year and that there, the big ones you can never predict and never budget for. So there's like an invisible baseline REIT of about 500,000. So that's what we're carrying forward with a normal growth rate from Pierce County at 4 to 6%, yada yada yada. So we're projecting 500 and change next year. So that's probably close to our stasis point, and that will get readjusted once the property gets developed over there by the golf course. So you'll see it go up like it did before. Minus another recession, it should kind of stay at that level because you've got a lot more properties changing hands. So about 500,000 today is about our base level.
But what we're not going to do is build. I think the golf court's going to get developed or go into development in the next 3 to 5 years. I think strongly that's going to happen. But you won't see that in any of our projections until you actually see people digging holes in the ground and doing stuff. We want to stay away from that, and I'd rather come to you and say, hey, we got a couple million extra dollars, we got to figure out what to do with next year, than come into you and say we got a couple million less than we banked on.
All right. The Hotel Motel Fund is going to award $174,000 in grants for 2017, and also cover administrative costs of $3,000. Leaving an ending fund balance for 2017 of $143,000, of which $52,000 is reserved for historic site development, and the remaining $91,000 is undesignated or unreserved.
And I would only offer to the council as a thought process as you move forward with this is that we don't have to hold a reserve on this stuff. I mean, this is money that regenerates every year. And so we can spend all this. You know, that's not something you need to withhold a reserve, that 91,000+ and stuff. We can exhaust that whole fund stream because it's just going to grow back. Well, I mean, there's limitations on. Yeah. I mean, you know, the caveat that there's things you can and can't do with it. And I would offer Roger, remember this slide. We'll talk about this slide later, okay?
Now, the Glacier Northwest Settlement Fund, it's going to have a beginning fund balance of $619,000. Only thing really going on in this fund is it's going to earn a little bit of interest, about $1,600, leaving $621,000 at the end of the year. Now, we haven't budgeted any expenditures in this fund. However, if you wanted to consider a potential project to do, that's the trail markers.
So I've only been here 3 years. I've kind of, you know, we've been through this, what the Glacier Settlement can and can't legally be used for, and it can be used for anything legally. But I've also heard kind of council's sentiment, if you might add, or might say, you know, keep it kind of environmentally related and things like that. So, and I know the mayor's going to address this more, but, you know, staff's kicking out. Consider trail marking. You know, trails are pretty close to kind of what this is intended for. And then after the tree board's presentation tonight too, I might throw that into consideration as well. It's environment related. It's about, you know, making the place more beautiful and more environmentally friendly. So that's my 2 cents.
I can add that I know that the trail markers, that was part of the Parks and Rec survey, and I believe it was ranked fairly high.
And it's important with the chief.
Yeah.
It's important with our 2 public safety chiefs as well. When you get back there, if you have a problem, call 911. There's no hope in finding you sometimes.
Yeah, and we looked at this and just thought that, you know, again, knowing the sentiment, the public sentiment, the council sentiment on the Glacier Fund, but we're sitting there on that fund. So when an opportunity presents for one-time expense on things that have a good nexus with it, that otherwise might not get funded, this is an opportunity to do some of those important aspects to the quality of life in our community. And certainly the trail markers we thought would be important. And again, the presentation we saw tonight, that's not a big reach to take care of 2 of those, and that's a very, very small piece of that fund. And over time, this is something the council could look to. Appropriate projects that you want to look at this as ways to enhance our community.
Oh, there's a little information on the one-time projects, or the trail markers. On to debt service. Earlier this year, I believe you guys might remember refunding the last of the 2009 certificates of deposit and issuing GO bonds. That saved in our debt service fund over $150,000 if you add in the cost of the debt service as it related to water and storm. That saved another $50,000. So you're looking at $200,000 just for the 2016 debt service based on what we were originally expected to pay. The debt service for 2017 is budgeted at $963,000, of which $771,000 will come from that debt service fund, and the remainder, $115,000 from water and $77,000 from storm. Just as a point of reference, the original debt that was budgeted for 2016 was over $1.1 million for the debt service going into 2017, had we not refunded that debt. Now, the debt service fund gets their revenues from transfers in from other funds to be able to cover the cost of the debt service. We're looking at transferring in $250,000 from the capital projects fund, which would be from your REIT 1. In addition, $96,000 will come from the Public Safety Mitigation Fund and $425,000 from the General Fund. Now, this is the table that I sent out via email right after the council meeting last week, and talking about where we are with our collections. And you can certainly see in 2002 to 2007, the city was really growing with its collections. Where you're seeing that downturn, that Great Recession did hit, but in 2012 we started making our way out of that, and real estate excise tax collections continue to come in and grow. The numbers that I have here, the $647,000, is as of November. We as a city have not received that money yet because it is a lag. However, I do know what those numbers are through November. I figured it was in my best interest not to even throw out a 1-month estimate in there, but that could range anywhere from $15,000 to $30,000. Could be more, could be less. Just depends on really what's going on out there. So this is truly the actuals that I know of as at this point in time.
You said there were 2 large charges?
One
One?
for this year, for 2016. The real estate excise tax revenue that comes in will be used as follows. We have earmarked $100,000 for the community center feasibility study, and now that's going to be dependent on survey results, if citizens want this, if council want to move forward with that. But that is in the budget at this point in time, but we're not doing anything until we have support from council and citizens to move forward with that. $100,000 would go to streets, and $307,000 will be used for debt service. That would include the GEO debt that we just talked about from the prior slide, as well as the Historic Village Sewer LID debt service.
The guest house inn, did that just change names or did it change ownership?
Just names. It's a marketing move. Same ownership.
In fact, I think it has 2 names at one time, because you can actually find 2 signs up with
Today it is that way. When you drive it off McNeil, it's one name. When you get to the front end,
There's
it's
a
another.
Fairwood and Fairhaven or something. I'm like, what are you?
Wasn't the feasibility study, am I misremembering, or was that originally 80,000 and this is a different number, or am I?
Well, we have a historic feasibility study done in another city in the Midwest that they spent $80,000 on several years ago. And so, knowing several years have passed, and again, using my rounding math, we talked about it, we believe it's going to come in around $100,000.
Okay.
How many more years do we have on the sewer lid?
Not very many. We were really close to having that paid off. I did not bring that date with me, but I'd be happy to provide that to you. It's such a small debt service, I didn't even gather too much information on that to bring. Sorry about that. Okay, we're continuing on with the Capital Projects Fund. There's several things going on with that. First off, the Pierce County LTAC Committee awarded the city $166,000 that could be used towards a tourism kiosk. In addition to that, the remainder of the cost of that would be paid for with REIT dollars. The Department of Commerce has awarded the city a grant for $20,000 for museum renovations. We'll have to do matching, and that matching is coming from the general fund for $8,140. Oh, it's for windows and wiring at the museum, the renovations.
I got a question. Do you have an estimated time frame of when that kiosk tourism thing with Neophyte Park would be attempted?
Yes, I do. We'll do the planning in the winter, first part of the year. First of all, we need the Pierce County Council to approve this. It's the same procedure you're familiar with. So once they approve it, then we'll actually start spending some of our matching funds, the 40,000-ish. So we'll start doing some design work and things like that. After the first year, we'll start spending more money that gets reimbursed through LTAC. So our hope is that we would be breaking ground mid-year. And we need to spend our money by the end of 2017 or we don't get it reimbursed.
For the kiosk, for $200K, what is it, just the bathroom?
No, it's as we briefed that one time, it's the 2 bathrooms plus the electronic interactive computer kiosk, plus the shelter, plus all the other stuff. The large part of this comes with the sewer and the water as usual in any project.
And why would we use REIT and not our own lodging tax funds?
We did not apply for it. And that's just we're proposing to fund it. I mean, conceivably, we could take the REIT portion out, leave the matching 40,000 and change out of it, and then reapply in March, but then we get ourselves behind construction timeline.
Is our local LTAC authorized for capital projects to be awarded?
Yes, it does. So LTAC changed a little bit in 2013, and you can do capital projects. One of the other changes in 2013 was it disallowed nonprofits to build capital projects using LTAC money. So nonprofit, non-public entities, I should say, can't build capital projects, but we can continue to do so.
Okay, so included in the budget also is the proposed sale of the property, which we're estimating to bring in about $250,000. That $250,000, the distribution is to put $125,000 into reserves, $83,500 to the Revenue Stabilization Fund, and $41,500 to the contingency fund. The remaining $125,000 can go to the general fund. That is money that is available for one-time opportunities, one-time projects. We did put together a list of ideas of what some of those projects might look like.
Yeah, so I want to tackle this, 2 parts. First part, we're talking about the Shaw House, which the current tenants are going to move out because they don't intend to, renew their lease. And in discussion, the staff wants to recommend to council that it's not in our best interest to keep this property, and I'd like to let Chief Creekmore talk about that a bit.
Yeah, the building we're talking about is the house that was constructed as a short-term stopgap of our fire station issue that was several years ago when we were in the Public Works building. So to me, it's outlived its purpose. It's undersized. It can only hold 1 vehicle, so it has no potential of future growth to add another unit to it. It's in a poor location because it really is isolated in one area. So I think we look at other locations in the city that would be more functional as the city develops with future development. Get something a little bit closer to a better response area. The bay doors don't give an adequate clearance really for the ambulance. It's pretty tight. It's long, it's tall, but the width of it is pretty inadequate. It has no means for oil water separation, which is a requirement, so really it wasn't built to any standard. It's a house with a RV garage, so it was able to house the fire zone in short term. It has no ability to be expanded, really, to add other apparatus bays to move into just a single bay or single house, single unit station. So looking at that, we have no future plans to put a unit out there. I think as development happens along the golf course and other locations, we're going to find a better location to add a second station once we realize the need.
And we've talked about the golf course, and think about it, it's right there. It's not like our fire station isn't well located to serve it, as long as our fire station is large enough to accept an expanded staff. When we really may have to look at another facility is when the residential reserve is built out in the mine, and if you think about it, that's a long time from now. And when that happens, there'll be fire mitigation funds associated with that. So instead of using at the time probably a 40-year-old, 35 or 40-year-old building that's inadequate for the task and on the absolute wrong end of town, when that development takes place and that becomes part of the development, is whatever public safety mechanisms and facilities we need get developed there. So we just thought that this was a good time to take the opportunity, sell this property, and then come back to you with some options on how to proceed forward with those funds.
And that's conservative, right? Is that what the 250K? So I'm guessing 250K is conservative.
Yeah, I mean,
Because it's a house and we're building a kiosk for 200. So, you know, that's government.
again, yeah, okay, yeah, prevailing wages, right.
Yeah, I can't say, I'll say it again and again and again. The labor laws and the laws in this state require prevailing wages, and I couldn't agree with you more. Every time the government builds something in this state, it's at least double what you and I could do. That is the state law, and anyone who's mad, I encourage to write their legislature.
Yeah, and so I'd like to go to slide 15, again, to toss this up to you. So, oh, okay, go ahead, Andy.
Can you think of any eventuality, like any future course of action where that building may be of any use to you under any circumstance?
Yeah, not in the 5 to 10 year range. And I think we'd get a better service facility that met a standard, that was built to code, that was built to the standard that's required for a fire station use. So as it sits now, it was intended,
Reduce response time, right?
no, at the time we were in the Public Works building and it became unsafe to sleep in. So we were in a job shack basically, and the apparatus was in the Public Works garage. So it was a temporary fix to get us new housing in the Public Works. They were able to get that building functional for them to use. So it was really a stopgap as we just needed a little bit better facility. It wasn't meant to be a long-term fire station, from my understanding.
Okay, but there was we had a fire study done by the contract fire study was done. And ultimately, this was a centrally located facility. And that would be like a satellite for an ambulance. It was never meant to be a fire station. It was supposed to be a house, an ambulance. That's what came out of the study, correct? Right, right. But this one here is centrally located to all points in the city, not considering the
Residential.
correct.
Any other questions related to Shaw House?
I don't know if I should suggest this before or after you go through the capital projects list, but I think if you're getting a large sum like that, there are so many suggestions and ideas from the community, things like the skate park, the water park, that have just fallen by the wayside. And I think those funds would be our chance to actually do something significant. You've got a lot of little projects here, other than painting the exterior. I think take those funds and give the community back something very significant that we wouldn't otherwise be able to fit into the budget. I can think of a lot.
That's fine.
I
That's
just wanted to
why.
throw that out there. I know that you've got this list, but for future discussion, maybe.
I would just add, next week we're doing facilities, and you will get your wish. You will see a list so long of really high dollar stuff, you will enjoy your shopping trip, I promise.
It's not that I want to spend it, it's just, if you're taking something, an asset away from the community, I think that we should give them a different asset, maybe something they've been asking for.
I think number one's non-negotiable, it has to be.
Well, and that's, I was going to tell you, I think number 1 and 2, we just flat need to do. We made a big effort at number 2, improved that thing a lot, but what we found is it was not water sealed, and those louvers you see in it, it's all been raining on the inside and it's rotting. And so there's work we need to finish that project, so you're right. I would ask you to you know, the council has to make a decision if you want to take half that money and put it in reserves. We just thought that was a prudent thing to do. We're continuing to try to, you know, build, boy, Sean was giving me the look. But if you don't do anything else, I'd ask you to do 1 and 2, because I just think those are flat things we need to get done. You know, we're trying to do a good job of taking care of our stuff now, whether it's the sidewalks and the trees or the vehicles, but our buildings right here, you wouldn't live in a house that needed a paint job this bad. Well, you know, but Penny, that's a good point. We talked about that today. How can we be living in a place, working the city, that if it was a house, the ROA'd come by and give you a letter and tell you to go get it painted? Roger.
Several years ago, the park agency asked for bathrooms for Chief Westshire Park, and that those bathrooms could very well be connected with the service there at that particular location. That never came through, maybe during that recession time that we had, whatever. It seems to me that unless Chief Westshire has bathrooms available now, which I don't think they have.
No, it does not.
It would be appropriate to put bathrooms there. As Sean indicated, that building was there to serve that particular area of town through medical services. I think it would be appropriate to provide bathroom facilities for those patrons who use the park, and they are many. Right now with the children, they have to find some place when they have to go to the bathroom. And some of the residents there are very welcome to allow their bathrooms and their residents to be used. But the city, in my opinion, needs to step up and provide adequate bathrooms for that particular facility up there at Chief Westshire Park. So I appreciate that being added to the list for serious consideration.
I actually disagree with that, because I don't know what world we live in where when I was a child and I played at a playground, you know, half a mile from my house, I didn't need a bathroom. And you just saw the price, the sticker shock of what it costs to build a bathroom in this town. And to go for $250,000 to build another bathroom somewhere else, when that park doesn't have a usable play field, I think the money would be much wiser in spending it on a field that is level and usable so that the park is viable, and then think about putting a bathroom in. But, you know, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened to bladder sizes in the last 40 years, but I was able to play for hours on end and then go home if I needed to use the toilet. And now it's like that park is a neighborhood park. There are people all over the place. It's presumably people within walking distance of their home. And I don't want to spend another $250,000 on a toilet. I mean, not when that park needs amenities, and that park has some, you know, rock sculpture, some swing sets, and a basketball court. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in that park that needs to be done in favor of usability and not defecation. I don't know.
Ed, correct me if I'm wrong, but as we go forward with budget approval, what we're really going to need is approval to sell Shaw House, and then we can come back based on what we get and when we get it. We can come back and then make the decision, but we have planted a seed that there's some things that we think would be appropriate. Andy?
Yeah, perhaps in the sale of that house, there could be some sort of easement that would allow us to access the sewer. I know that's what was discussed, you know. I don't know if there's something that can be passed along with the document.
That's an excellent suggestion. Let's look into
Leave that option
Yeah.
open.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
That's a really excellent suggestion. Thanks for reminding us.
I don't know how many of you have actually been inside the Shaw Street house, but it's very, very basic. I mean, it's a Chevy model. But you know, the cabinets were low-grade countertops, I mean, everything. So, I don't really know, you know, that's probably, you know, probably what we might get out of it, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think the median price for a home in DuPont right now is $325, or last time we saw it. And so, you know, throwing $250 out there, again, we're trying to be conservative. What's that? Yeah, there you go, that'll be a selling feature.
Yeah, it's, for anyone's listening, it has an air conditioner, it has a generator, it's a great shop area, you can park your RV in there, so I think there's some selling points.
Yeah, but if we come back with, you know, 350 or 400,000, then it's a better discussion to have. But I don't want to tell you that much and come back with 250 and go, oops.
I guess from the discussion, we have two projects we kind of consensus had not agreed we need to get done, then we can put in reserves and go from there. But I think the question is whether or not to proceed.
Yeah, that's really the question. Yeah, that's really the question. And so, again, you know, we're not asking you to vote on this tonight, but if there's strong opposition to selling the home, please let us know, because, you know, we just think it's the right thing to do, and for a lot of reasons.
Public Works would not be able to use that home for anything, correct? It would be.
No, but you notice one of the things on here is Public Workshop siting study.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, we all know we have not taken as good a care of Public Works over the years as we should have, and we need to start moving towards a permanent long-term location. And we have limited time, so we got to.
Right, so we were just talking, what we're gonna do, if it's all right with you, just go through we'll let you look at these on your own, there's plenty of info and pictures. We'll go through the reserve funds, and then we'll leave public safety and public works for next time.
Okay, so we're at the ER&R fund, so the equipment replacement fund. We're starting 2017 off with $1.5 million. During 2017, the departments will contribute $387,000 for replacement reserves. We'll be looking to replace a couple computers, two patrol cars, 2 public works vehicles, and a fire ambulance with equipment, leaving $1.56 million at the end of 2017.
And that'll complete the patrol car purchase. Right, finished out the lease.
That will finish off. Then we'll get back on a normal schedule where you have 2 every 7 to 10 years, whatever the lifespan ends up being.
And the Revenue Stabilization Fund, financial policies give us a target of 10% of the general fund operating expenditure budget for our reserve balance, so that would equate to $713,000. In 2017, we're looking to contribute $109,500, which $26,000 would come from the general fund, and then $83,500 from the sale of the Shaw property. By doing that, we would end the year with $408,725, which would be 57% of our target. At the end of 2016, we're looking to be at 42.7% of our target. So we are gaining ground here every year.
But we are chasing a growing target. You know, that number grows every year, so we're trying to outpace it.
As the expenditures grow, so does our target. The contingency fund has a target balance of $356,000, or 5% of the general fund operating budget. We're looking to put $54,500 in contributions. $13,000 would come from the general fund and $41,500 from Shaw property. The year-end balance in that fund would be $207,000, meeting 58% of our target amount, increasing from 43.5 as of the end of 2016. Do you guys have any questions? I'm sorry I went really fast. We were just running out of time.
We're good at this end, Mr. Mayor. We'll do public safety and public works next time.
We're going to catch water fund next time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, council, I appreciate your indulgence this evening. A lot of topics, meeting topics. I think we got a lot of good information out of it. Appreciating let's get through all that stuff. Just as a reminder, next week, 7 p.m. for the regular council meeting, and we will have a budget workshop following that council meeting. If you're trying to get a hold of me, I'm on cell phone, but I'm leaving tomorrow morning early for the East Coast. I'll get back Sunday evening. I'm going to go watch Army beat North Texas. Yeah. Yeah, you could be that way. But anyway, so Robbie and I, but I'll still be in cell phone coverage. Does anybody need anything else? I'm going to. Okay, meeting adjourned.